ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is a review for NXT for 9/25/19. Second episode of NXT on USA. The premiere I really thought was very lackluster. I felt like it was more of a buy-in for the network, you know? Like, hey, here's a clip of what we can do, now go check out the network to see the rest of it. This week felt more like a show. For the first hour. They still did the second hour on the network, but at least this time it didn't feel like they were trying to sell you on the network. So you start out, I think there were 3 or 4 people within the first 3 matches I had never seen before. So it was actually kind of cool to get to see some new talent and get familiar with some wrestlers that I'm not familiar with. And so the first 2 were Keith Lee versus Dominic Dajakovic or some shit like that. Really big guys that can really move. It was really impressive. It was a really great match. There were a lot of highlight moments to this match. And I like that, man, especially coming from guys that are as big as they are. You don't typically see somebody as big as Keith Lee, who has got to be 320, 340, somewhere in there. I mean, he's a big guy doing leapfrogs over his opponents that are over 6 feet. So I was pretty impressed, man. I thought that both guys, Dominic and Keith, were really, really talented, especially for their size. And one thing I gotta say is Mauro Ranallo is easily the best announcer in WWE at this moment. I really love Corey Graves. I think he's a very close second. But right now, Mauro takes the cake, man. He is damn good. They really screwed up letting JBL be a prick to everybody around him. Honestly. The match itself, Keith Lee takes the win. I was impressed with both of these guys right off the bat. The next match is Dakota Kai versus Tanara Conti. And they were selling her as an ex-mixed martial artist who is now a sports entertainer. And so I did some due diligence there, and she actually is a black belt in judo and a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So she's the real deal. So that's really cool. And Dakota Kai coming back from a major injury. So that was a cool moment within itself. And the match was pretty good. They had a lot of kicks flying everywhere. That's kind of Dakota Kai's thing, and you add in the mix of real martial artist. That's what you would expect to get. And so good match. Dakota Kai pulled out the win with kind of her version of a go to sleep. So yeah, man, really cool. Then you get the NXT Championship #1 contendership match between Matt Riddle and Killian Dane. And these guys so far, every match, have absolutely killed it. Matt Riddle, since he has come in, I think has killed it pretty much every match he's had. The guy is damn good. And for a guy his size, he's nothing but lean muscle, man. He is incredibly strong for his size. It's crazy. So seeing him throwing Killian Dane around the way he can is pretty impressive, man. And Killian Dane, for a guy that big, again, being very agile for a guy that size, that's one thing that really gets me about the big guys in WWE nowadays. You know, we used to get the Andre the Giants and the big, Big Boss Man, Bundy. All these guys were big and they could barely move. These new guys are big and they're flying around like cruiserweights. It's really impressive to see. And Killian Dane does fit that, man. He's doing the, Coupe Suicinas and shit like that, and it's amazing, man. It really is. It's very cool. So they had some hard-hitting moments in this match. It went out of the ring, of course, into the fans, everywhere else. At the end of the day, Matt Riddle locks in an armbar, gets the tap-out victory. Adam Cole comes down to try to make an impression, and it backfires because Matt Riddle puts the same armbar on Adam Cole. Undisputed Era run down to help him. Matt Riddle leaves the ring, and there you go. That was the first hour. And I really like it because you start the way you should start a show, with what might be considered the undercard guys, trying to make a name for themselves. And I feel like they made a name for themselves, like in my opinion, because I'd never seen either one before. Dakota Kai, I was familiar with, but Tanera, I was not. And I think they both killed it, honestly. So I was really happy so far. And then Killian Dane and Matt Riddle, I am familiar with both of them. They're both damn good. And I feel like it really added some stakes with the TV show part of it. So I was really happy with it. I really, really was. So now we move on to the network part of it, which started. They kind of recapped what had just happened, and they went into Rhea Ripley versus Caden Carter. I was unfamiliar with Caden Carter. She started out fast, furious. Rhea Ripley pretty much dominated the match, though. She's a big woman. She's got a good look, a unique look. She's strong as hell. So it was kind of what you would expect at this point. I'm somewhat familiar with Rhea Ripley. I've seen a lot of her matches. Well, I won't say a lot, but I've seen some of her matches. And she's good, man. She's good. So unfamiliar with Caden, but she didn't look bad. So it'll be interesting to, see what both of them have, because I'm somewhat familiar with Rhea. So moving on, ONeil and Danny Birch versus Everrise, which is Chase Parker and Matt Martell. I have not seen Everrise before, either one of them. And I am somewhat familiar with ONeil and Danny Birch. Very hard-hitting guys. I liken Oni to like Cesaro. Not nearly that strong and talented, I think, but that same style. Very cool though. It was a good match, and at the end of the day, ONeil and Danny Birch take the win. Then you get Cameron Grimes versus Raul Mendoza. Cameron Grimes was the guy who had the one-hit victory last week, which I just thought was a waste of space on your premiere on USA. So this week they looked like they were going to try to do the same thing, and Mendoza deflected the first hit. Actually turned into a pretty decent match, and at the end of the day, Cameron Grimes still got the stump and got the win. Which leads you into the last match of the night, which is Kushida. He's fighting 3 members of Imperium. I'm not familiar with Imperium. The only guy that I really know is Alexander Wolf from his days in Sanity. So the other 2 guys, I don't even know their names yet. Kushida brings out Breezango. I thought that was interesting. Tyler Breeze is really, really good, though. And I think he's very underrated. I really do. So the match was exactly what you would expect. Hard hitting at points, high flying at points, things that really grab your attention and make you go, wow. And that's not really to understate it, too, because it was good, man. I was definitely entertaining. At the end of the day, Kushida gets a roll-up on one of the gentlemen in Imperium. I think they said his name was Carter or something. I don't know. So Kushida gets the win, runs out of the ring up the ramp, and Walter comes out, attacks him from behind, and Imperium are standing tall at the end of the show up at the top of the ramp. And that's where they cut it. So I really liked this episode a lot more than last week's. I really do. You started out with a hell of a match between 2 really big guys that can move. Dakota Kai coming back, Breezango coming back. That was a good match within itself. ONeil and Birch, I thought that match with Everrise was good. So, I mean, really, man, they ended the first hour, I think, the way they should have with the Riddle-Dane fight. It was really good, hard-hitting. 2 very talented guys, in my opinion. So, for this one, the bar is going way up, back to what I think NXT usually exemplifies in wrestling, and that's just the best of it. A lot of very young, hungry, super talented guys. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was really, really good. Really good. I was highly impressed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackwitz, Cage Nation, out.